In chess, right after the most popular first move ever, Black comes to a fork in the road. And your choice there, it's not just a move. It's a statement. It's you declaring exactly how this fight is going to go down. Today, we're diving into that choice by looking at a tale of two absolute legends, the classical Ruy Lopez versus the fiery Sicilian Defense. And it all kicks off with just one move, pawn to e4. This is the king's pawn game. It's direct, it's aggressive. Right away, it stakes a claim in the center of the board. It opens up pathways for the queen and a bishop, and it immediately asks the opponent a very simple, very powerful question. And that question is, so what are you going to do about it? Black's answer here is going to define the entire landscape of the game. Are they going to meet force with force, or are they going to throw a wrench in the works and just embrace the chaos? This one decision takes us down two completely different paths. So, on the one hand, you've got the classical reply, pawn to e5. It's symmetrical, it's principled. Black basically mirrors what white did, fighting for the center head-on. But on the other hand, you have this asymmetrical challenge, pawn to c5. And that is the Sicilian defense. It creates an imbalance from move one and basically screams, we are not playing a quiet game today. Now here's where it gets really interesting. It's how these first moves blossom into openings with totally different personalities. That first path, 1e5, that often leads us into the Ruy Lopez, which feels like a strategic siege, where white just applies this slow, long-term pressure. But the path of 1c5, the Sicilian, well, that's a pure counterpunch. It's for the player who is, as they say, ready for a fight. Okay, so we've got these two big ideas. How do they actually clash? Well, let's start with the first major battleground, the fight for the center. This is where the deep philosophical differences between these two openings become crystal clear. So in chess, there are basically two big schools of thought about controlling the center of the board. The classical view says you plant your pawns right in the middle. You occupy the territory. That space gives your pieces freedom and cramps your opponent. But then there's the hypermodern view, which is all about controlling the center from a distance with your pieces. You actually let your opponent build up a big pawn center, just so you can turn it into a target and attack it. And this right here, this just shows you the difference perfectly. Over on the left, in the Ruy Lopez, you see white building this strong, classical pawn center. They occupy space, they develop their pieces behind it, and they just slowly start to squeeze. But the Sicilian, on the right, that's the hyper-modern idea in action. Black uses that c-pawn to attack the center from the side, from the flank, creating this immediate imbalance and challenging white's whole setup. This whole idea is captured perfectly by this fantastic quote from the great master Siegbert Tarisch. The Sicilian player is essentially saying to white, go ahead, build your big, beautiful pawn center. It might look impressive, but now it's a target. And now you have something to worry about. It's a strategy that's all about risk, counterattack, and just holding your nerve. Okay, so if you're playing this high-stakes, risky game, that brings up a really important question. With all this tension on the board, how do you keep your most important piece safe? Let's talk about the king. It's a fundamental concept, right? Early in the game, your king is just out in the open, vulnerable in the center. The main goal is to get him to safety. And we usually do that by castling, tucking him away behind a nice wall of pawns. But where you castle, to the king's side or to the queen's side, that one choice completely changes the character of the fight. Now, in a typical Ruy Lopez, you're going to see both players castle on the same side of the board, usually the king side. And when both kings are safe in the same neighborhood, well, things tend to calm down a bit. It leads to a much slower, more strategic game. The battle is all about maneuvering, building up tiny advantages, and fighting for key squares, not some all-out attack on the king. It's a real test of patience and deep, deep planning. But you've probably guessed this by now. The Sicilian isn't really into slow, maneuvering games. It's got something way more, let's just say, violent in mind. Check this out. A classic scenario in so many Sicilian lines is opposite side castling. White will castle queenside, and black will castle kingside. And what happens when the kings are on opposite ends of the board? Well, it becomes a race, an all-out race. Each player launches what we call a pawn storm, just throwing their pawns forward in a direct, brutal assault on the enemy king. It is sharp, it is risky, and it is a fight to the death. So we have these two completely different strategic game plans.
Let's zoom in a little bit and get a taste of how they actually play out by looking at a signature variation from each opening.
So on one side, in the Ruy Lopez, we have the famous Berlin defense. They call it the Berlin Wall for a reason. I mean, the name says it all, right? It's incredibly solid, it's resilient, and it's all about aiming for strategic positional grind. Now, contrast that with the Sicilian dragon. It's known as one of the sharpest, most aggressive lines in all of chess, defined by just fierce attacks and these mind-bending tactical fireworks. The difference is, quite literally, night and day. All right, so after diving into these two totally different worlds, it really all comes down to a choice. Which weapon do you want to bring to the board? And honestly, it's a question of your personal style. So let's just break it down nice and simple. Ask yourself, are you a patient strategist? Do you enjoy building up pressure slowly over the long term, just weaving a complex strategic web? Then yeah, the Ruy Lopez might be for you. Or do you just crave immediate action? Do you thrive in those tactical dogfights where one wrong move could end the whole game? Well, then the Sicilian Defense is calling your name. It's really all about finding the opening that fits who you are as a player. So, what's it going to be? The choice between 1e5 and 1c5 is more than just a move. It's a reflection of who you are at the chessboard. Are you the classical strategist, or are you the counterattacking fighter? The only way to find out is to get out there and play. The board is set, the choice is yours.